into order and recognize any attendees who wish to be noted. Anyone online?
Housley.
All right. First item of business is claims for approval. I think those are part of the packet that you guys received.
Just for clarification, the claims you have in front of you, there are two from Ice Miller. One is, they're both the retainer fees. One is from last month. We did not have an Ice Miller retainer payment. And then this month's retainer payment is there with some mileage on it.
Yeah, we changed our billing, so or when those invoices are sent to where that it's quicker to get to you all, so it can be more timely. So that's why we have two.
Awesome. Okay.
I would move that we accept the claims.
I'll second. Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great. Motion carries. And I'll sign this one and have passed it around for you guys to sign as well. And then next on the business is Corey with the director's report.
Yes, thank you. Cory Sharp. I just have a couple things that I wanted to cover with you as we kind of transition between learning and doing. We are taking a lot of time and reconciling some information that we've been gathering over the last 6 months. So we have a couple projects coming up, and later tonight you'll consider agreeing to a proposal for lot 9. If that moves forward and you give that approval, it's basically set to close in 2023, just as a note. Lots 10 and 11, which is the Graham Ray Hall Performance project, that is set to close by the end of July. We have been told that their goal is to close mid to end of June. And last, well, let's see, two or 3 weeks ago, they asked for their due diligence extension. And so they are in this last section of time frame as allowed in the development agreement. Then also in June and July, we will be making TIF payments, our payments on our bonds for TIF. Next month, we will have in front of you a proposal to renew our environmental insurance. Right now, that insurance is associated with Creekside because of the former activities that were on the property, and it's an insurance required by covenants when it was originally sold. We have to carry this insurance through 2029, and we're currently seeking out quotes to renew that. Brian, did you want to add anything?
Well, we conducted some research to try to figure out where this obligation started. It's in all of our Creekside development agreements. And nearest as we can tell, it had something to do with the Lids transaction. Probably, when the transition of the property from being owned by Dow to being owned by the RDC. I mean, the property was still in the voluntary remediation program at IDEM, and it was probably procured to get Lids over the hump, so to speak, to go ahead and develop on that site. And it looks like that policy was probably provided in the course of due diligence. My recollection of it was it came up at the very last minute, which, looking at the negotiated drafts, it did. And and Wayne knew this was, Wayne understood like what the, you know, what the obligation was, but we haven't actually been able to find the Liz document. But the other thing about the insurance obligation, we'll just have to see, because there are some triggers that if the premium amount is above $25,000, that we may not have to procure the insurance, and it becomes an optional thing for the individual landowners to actually procure, given the limited value to the landowners of this type of policy. I don't think there's going to be a lot of takers. So we're going through the renewal process. We're going to comply with the terms of all of our agreements, and then we'll report back to you with what we find out and what we have to do.
Right, so our goal is to have that renewal in front of you before June or July. So halfway through the year. Renewal is up in August, so have it approved prior to its closing date this year. I wanted to give you an update. I'm gonna bring it up on my screen just for fun. Not that one. We have 2 RFIs out. And I gotta swing it over. One is for request for information and ideas for the 4 parking lots at Sycamore and Main Street, basically, just asking for ideas. I have had some conversation with folks that are just generating some questions and intend to submit to this information request. That is due June 30th. And then the other one that we have out right now, I'm also had some interested parties talk to me about this, is lot 2, which is out here in front of Town Hall. This one is due June 16th. So we'll have one to talk about at our June meeting, which is on the 22nd, and then one in our July meeting. My intent is to collect all of the information that is submitted and present it to you as a collective packet. And then we can go through as a commission and decide how we want to sell this property and bring a project together. So that will all happen in June and July as well. Later on in the agenda under old business, you have a consideration for CDC board appointments. We have received about 6 resumes, and we're going through and interviewing those candidates, and I would like to continue to do that and have them on the agenda for a recommendation in June. Then also in June, just switching over to a budget item, we are reconciling our budget between Crow's, which is the financial advisor, estimates and actuals with the town. I actually just received last week the actuals for the start of the year. And there is some discrepancy between those 2 reports. And so I've asked for a meeting with Cindy, our treasurer, and Crow to start to reconcile where those differences are. We, as an organization, have been put underneath the town's umbrella for financial management, so to speak. Like, we have to follow their protocols and claims and all of that. We also are in their banking system. And so right now, Cindy is looking at separating our RDC account from a town account and creating a whole new RDC account. We are also looking at the CDC contribution, which is a total of 250, but looking at 125,000 as a first distribution. I will likely have that as an agenda item in June, because I would like for us to actually write out the terms and limitations of where they can spend it and how they can spend it, because that is in our state statute, the limitations of gifting that. The other thing that we need to reconcile is our Creekside obligation for the school payments. There is two different triggers, and through a deep dive into all of the papers, we have discovered that the two triggers have been called, so to speak. And they were called back in 2021, I believe is what it was. So we have some back payments. The school has not received a payment as of yet, and they are annual payments, and they're around $70,000 a year. So we will need to put a plan together to make a back payment. The biggest part about the $70,000 is that's the baseline. Out of that $70,000, we pull out our Creekside costs. And so we are going through our budget line items to understand what needs to be pulled out of that.
Yeah, I mean, for example, like legal fees and consultants fees with respect to a TIF district and economic development projects in a TIF district are applicable costs from that fund. So,
Yes.
so we are also in the process of kind of putting together, our Creekside, at least Nice Miller's Creekside related costs to make sure that we get those accounted for in this calculation.
As a reference point, I want to show you the type of document that we're building. That way you will become accustomed to seeing it, because I will plan on having it on my director's report going forward once it's all reconciled. So it is a line by line item that looks at, boy, this is really difficult to use over here. All of the TIF income, all of the obligations, and then we have a month by month projection going forward to make sure that we have the cash on hand in each of the individual balances. And then making sure that we obviously know how the budget is going to play out. So you'll also see then we've got it broken down into professional fees and architecture fees, legal fees. And this is where you'll see Ice Miller's $8,000 each month. This month it's $16,083, and then it just continues forward. So Cindy and I, and then the Crow team are working through this and making sure that it's accurate and that we can actively use it going forward. So with that in mind, that concludes my director's report. I'm happy to take questions.
I have a couple of questions, Corey.
Yeah.
So when the discrepancy between what the town had and Crow has identified, that's the starting balance for 23. Is that where the discrepancy was?
It's actually in a couple different areas. It's in the starting balance, yes, but then we're able to break it down per TIF area. And so the treasurer is, I don't think that the treasurer has been paying for things out of specific funds. I think that it's coming from a general. I don't think the treasurer has ever been directed to say this comes out of 490, the Zionsville EDA, or it comes out of 494, which is Appaloosa Crossing, as an example. So moving forward, we need to give our treasurer clear direction of what TIF funds need to come out of.
Right.
It is very, the RDC has no cash balance as of, we have no cash dollars. So everything that we are working out of is associated with a TIF. So we need to make sure that we're following that state statute to the letter to make sure that.
Well, yeah, I mean, all expenses have to be in the TIF area where the dollars were generated.
That's exactly
So
right.
we need to have transparency that the dollars are being directed where they're raised.
Same-
So that's.
Same for granting as well.
Right.
Yep.
Was the discrepancy to the plus side or the low side?
To the plus side.
Okay, so we actually, Crow anticipates that our starting and all of this is higher than what the town or vice versa.
I can show you right
Oh.
here. I just have it up here on the, so Crow's initial start, we, in our Zionsville EDA, Cindy has us at 2.5 actual, and Crow has it at 2 million. And then you can see
Yeah.
it flipped here, Oak Street, 44,000 versus 230,000.
Mhm.
So we've got to go through and understand where these gaps are because they're not small gaps.
Right.
And I have a feeling it's a matter of expenses considered. I don't think that Crow is considering the actual expenses that have been pulled through either recently or, within the last couple of years. So
And is that easy to find or locate based off of claims? Or is that something that they're gonna have to go back through OpenGov and look through?
well, we're going to be doing it through claims
Okay,
because we have a track that's clear.
Probably.
And
easier.
which is why we've had such a delay in receiving this information because the town has been switching financial services to a new computer system. And the town council was in the same boat, they just received their opening year-end balances as well.
As far as Creekside and Zionsville community, are you trying to figure out how to phrase this question so that it is in the form of a question? So you anticipate that it's 70-ish, 75 approximately for 2 years, 2021 and 2022. Crow, the 5-year outlook was in the $90,000 ballpark. That remains the same as far as budgeting going forward.
I think it should be a good assumption that moving forward, we'll maintain that in our budget, close to $100,000 to be safe. I'd rather be, on the plus side than the negative side. We probably will have to put a repayment plan together because as you can see here, this discrepancy, it comes out of the Creekside allocation area and Cindy has the balance at $45,000 and Crow has it at 183. So we've got to figure out the tricky thing about this agreement is that while it's all associated with Creekside, the calculation is based on Creekside and the Zionsville EDA, which is the largest EDA. But the payment to the school only comes out of the Creekside EDA. So, or the TIF area, allocation area.
Yeah, understood. Thank you, Brian and Corey, for sending that agreement out to peruse. It's lengthy and there's a lot going on in there. So forgive me for not fully understanding it on first reading, but
You kind of have to have a separate piece of paper.
Yeah.
And make boxes and lines, and that's the only way to.
yeah, that's right.
Go back and double check the boxes and lines.
I think in maybe a future meeting, it would be helpful to kind of be able to go through that calculation and understand what where we hit the trigger, how much, and at least since I assume this board will have to approve the repayment agreement and
Absolutely.
everything going forward, understanding how we got to that point and what those triggers going forward will be and what dollar figures we're talking about.
Yeah. Brian and I can definitely include that in a PowerPoint, for June, probably. Mr. Berg is in the audience today and he's the president of the school board and sitting in place of, Ms. Ashelman. And we have been in conversation, I've been in conversation with the school and just trying to understand if our records, are concurrent with their records, and that is the case. They have a record of no payment, and they're also kind of walking through how they understand the same agreement. So prior to us presenting to you, I'll make sure that the school is in the same understanding.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. So just as a disclosure for anybody watching online, this is up on the screen is a working worksheet. It is not final, but I do want you to see that we are working towards a reconciliation and a systematic way for us to communicate and be transparent going forward. Any other questions for me?
Is the Cindy column and the Crow column, are they both subject to change and adjustment as part of this?
Oh, yes.
You want
Yeah,
to do
I'll have a
something?
third column that says
Oh, okay.
final.
Oh,
Once those numbers get finalized for Cindy and Crow, can we get this updated monthly to us?
This whole worksheet will be sent to you monthly. It'll be part of your, either I'll include it as my director's report or we'll put it in underneath the claims section. So you can see where the funds are coming out of and what we're looking towards. Yes.
Thank you.
I do notice in our current costs that there is a fund number in a department, but that doesn't equate over.
It is a separate system that Cindy uses.
Okay, so yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So that'll likely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Well, if you don't have any other questions for me, then I'm done.
Thank you. So we jumped around a little bit, but I believe we're at the Crow engagement letter contract, or did I miss that?
I think you're at the TIF area report. Just
Oh, right. No, you jumped down. I made some notes. Yeah, you're right. Thank you. TIF area. Yeah, so we have that in our packet. The highlights are what has changed from last month. Does anyone have any questions? No. All right. So then to the old business with the Crow engagement letter and contract.
Still waiting.
Okay, still waiting. Next month, maybe? Okay. All right, we'll keep that on old business. You touched on item B, which is the CDC Board of Directors appointment, and you're going to revisit that in June.
Yes, please.
So that's great. And then moving on to, unless there's any other old business, then we'll move on to new business. The approval and adoption of minutes from last month. Can I get a motion?
I'd move approval of the minutes from this says April 24th, but it's, yes, April 24th, 2023.
Second. Great, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 4-0. And then Creekside Corporate Park Lot 9, the J.R. Kendall Development Agreement, which is included in our packet as well.
Just as an introduction to this project, what you have in front of you is a development agreement for land sale to J.R. Kendall Property Group. The land that you are considering is Lot 9, which is kind of outside of the whole of Creekside Corporate Park. It's at the intersection of Dahlia Street and 106th Street. It is 2 acres. This awkward shape right here is part of a transmission line that runs all the way up here. And then the green behind it is some steep topography, wooded area that is going to remain in preservation. I will let JR introduce his project, and I will pull up, if I can figure out how to, I'll pull up his building elevation, but this is JR Kendall, and I asked for him to just kind of walk through the project, and you can ask him any questions. Welcome.
Hi, everybody. My name's JR Kendall. My company is Kendall Property Group, and we're multifamily developers. Our company my dad founded the company in 1988 and built all types of product types around, mostly in the Indianapolis area. That was a lot of office, a lot of hotels, and storages, and some apartments. And when I came on board with the company in 2006, I went through the first recession and saw that apartments did better than the rest of those product types. So for about the last 10 years, we've exclusively built apartment projects. We're in Kentucky, Indiana, Michigan, and Ohio. So I moved to Zionsville about 10 years ago, right before I got married. And my wife and I lived in the village until last year. Now we live in Holiday Farms, but we drove past this site twice a day for the last 10 years. And I've always liked this lot. I think it's got great potential as an office for an office use. Let's see. So what we're showing here is a 2-story building. When I first presented to the board back in, I think it was probably about 1.5 years ago, we really were pushing for a 1-story office on this property, and we had 2 separate, I think they were about 9,000 square foot buildings laid out on the property. As we've learned more about the site and the detention issues with the water and so on, it's become clear that we needed to condense the footprint. And as the PUD requires a 2-story building, we've moved on to this design. Our thought for the building is we have 7 people in our office right now, so we just need we're going to take about 5,000 feet of this building. It's close to 20,000 feet. We would take the upper west end of the building, and then we'd have 15,000 feet to lease out. I've got a couple companies I'm talking to. That one is about a 10,000 foot user, and the other would be a 15. So one of those 2 is probably hopefully a good prospect for a lease with the building. As you can see in the building, we've tried to keep our space options pretty flexible with multiple entries. The building, it could house, up to 5 or 6 tenants if needed, but we expect it to probably be 2 to 3. The site layout, we currently have 70 parking spaces laid out on the site with a small dry detention area. As Corey mentioned, the site falls off pretty severely to the back and to the west, or to the east of the property. So that's where the dry detention would be, back towards the low end of the property. As far as a timeline, our plans will take 4 months for us to have those ready. So once we get the development agreement in place, I would expect to have plans in September, and then start construction hopefully around November 1st. And I would think this project should take us 6 to 8 months to complete. And other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
I would like to just add a couple notes. So this is a straight land sale. This is not a request for TIF or any other abatements or incentives. This plan does follow the PUD as written, so it would not require any changes to the PUD. And then also this building size and footprint is maximized based on how many spaces you can park on the site. So while there may have been an expectation for all of Creekside to be a lot of levels, you know, more than 2, that's not a reality for this site. It is a much smaller site. So just for your information.
Mr. Kendall, do you have an estimate of what your total investment on the property is going to be?
Yeah, it'll be somewhere between $5 and $6 million. Probably 6 with the way things are. And building materials, so the building we're showing is a combination of a gray brick with the brown brick, and then the kind of the storefront looking windows will have some type of a bright metal trim across the top that'll kind of lighten up the darker colors, and then we'll have the parapet at the top. As you enter, that will be a 2-story atrium as you enter, and then the staircases to the back of the building, which will go up to the 2nd floor.
Yes, yeah, sorry, I was looking to see if the, you mentioned 2 other tenants likely?
I have 2 that I'm talking to. I'm just guessing that, you know, I think that if we take 5,000 feet and we have 15 left, I'm guessing that we'll be able to find a 5,000 foot user, 10,000 foot user, maybe a 15, who knows, but I'm guessing that we'd probably end up with, say, 2 to 3 tenants in the building max, but we'll have flexible space that we can, you know, we could have five tenants.
So it can be divided up as
Yeah.
necessary, yeah. Cause in the contract, I did notice the capacity to hold 55 to 75 employees. So ideally, you're trying to get to that point.
Well, I mean, from our perspective, we're just trying to get to the economics part of it. I mean, the number of employees, I know that that's important as far as for towns and finance and so on. I would expect, you know, that 70 number, or I think it's 77.
55 to 75 is what it.
Oh, 75. That's just based on like a standard, typical 250 feet per employee number.
Yeah, I would think so, yeah.
So like ours will be a little less dense, but then I mean, one guy that I met with on Friday, he's got 31 employees and and he needs about 10,000 feet, maybe a little less. So that would be an employee per 300 feet, but close to that number.
Yeah, makes sense. Any other question?
The tenants that you're engaging will meet or exceed the 70,000 average salaries for the employees, right?
Yeah, I mean, our office will exceed that, I would guess. Yeah, I mean, the type of services I see here, because it has great visibility, but it's not really a retail site. I think, you know, the kind of professional office service type people like attorneys or accountants that have, clients that visit their office, but they're not out trying to have, a billboard out on the street. They're, people hanging their shingle up.
Makes sense. Excellent. Any other questions?
Will you be taking the architectural drawing, the initial draw up to the plan commission and adding that to your packet?
I'm still unsure of what the process is, but yeah, this is what I would be presenting to the planning commission.
Okay. So I think we need a motion.
I can motion to make a motion to approve the proposal for Creekside Corporate Park Lot 9, J.R. Kendall Development Agreement, with the addition of making sure that we include the drawing for the packet.
Excellent. Second.
I'll second.
All right. All in favor?
I
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
you.
And we have other business with nothing on it, so I think we are ready to adjourn at 7:07, and our next meeting is Monday, the 26th of June, 6:30. Thanks.